I want to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who help support the channel. Also, I want to say thank you to my Twitch subscribers. Help the channel out by donating or go to patreon.com. Thank you. All right, so kind of a little bit of a serious time here. Recently, we had another mass shooting. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what we have to do or what experiences that we have to deal with a lot of the problem that comes with mass shootings. It's one of those things where it's just like, we know what the solution is, but a lot of our politicians are too fucking cowardly to try to do something about it. So they lie and puff their chest out and come up with straw mans of how to fix it. And then when you have the opportunity to fix it, well, they have the opportunity to fix it, they don't do shit about it. And it's almost as if they're throwing out these things in order to distract from what needs to be done. Guns. That's just it. We need to deal with all of the guns in the country. And until we do that, we're going to still keep having these mass shootings and kids are going to die and all this other good shit. And nobody wants to do anything about it. So let's see how another country handled it when they were dealing with mass shootings. So let's go.
Hundreds of students ran for their lives.
We didn't think this would ever happen.
The shooting at an elementary school in Newtown, Virginia Tech.
Parkland, Columbine High School.
A total of 15 people.
33 dead.
20 children, 7 adults.
More than 240,000 US students have experienced gun violence at school since Columbine in 1999. But in the UK...
And I actually was in school. Like, this has been more than the last 24 fucking years. We have been seeing just victim after victim after victim after victim of school shootings. And it's only in America. But let's continue.
It's a different story. Private ownership of all handguns and semi-automatic rifles is banned, a concept unimaginable in America. But how have these two inextricably linked nations ended up with such vastly different attitudes on guns? And how did this massive change in the UK even happen? To understand, we have to go back to 1996, when the Dunblane massacre changed everything.
Grief, shock and disbelief in the Scottish town of Dunblane.
A former scout leader with a grudge.
It is a tragedy without precedent.
So, they said it, like, how did this happen where one country, private ownership of guns, and what the U.S. has is, let's just throw whatever we can to the fucking NRA and let the chips fall where they may. How did this happen? And it was one school shooting. But let's continue.
16 tiny children died right here at Dunblane Primary School. The massacre, carried out by a man who had licenses for his guns, was enough to change the UK's gun laws forever. What's truly amazing is that by the end of the next year, it became illegal to own a handgun in the UK. But how did the UK get to that point so fast? It was mainly due to the activism from those personally affected by the attack.
My daughter Sophie was one of the 16 young children who were shot dead at Dunblane Primary School. She and I were on our own. She was my only child.
Dr. Mick...
So, wow, parents actually stepped up and said, no, we're not going to have this shit happen no more. And it wasn't some dumb motherfucking people who get paid from lobbying groups to say, oh, but what about my rights? I'm sorry. your rights outweigh dead kids. Your rights outweigh dead kids. But I don't know. Let's go.
North was an academic before the shooting, but after, he found it impossible to return to that life. So he devoted himself to making sure other parents never had to experience his agony by becoming a gun control activist.
Hi. One of my initial reactions after Dunblane was a feeling that this should never have happened because the guns that the perpetrator used have been too easy to come by.
Dr. North combined forces with other people who were touched by Dunblane, like former Scottish Labour MP Richard Simpson. Now, he was a doctor at the local hospital at the time, but then after that experience, he changed his entire career, became a Labour MP, and helped to lead the motion to change the gun laws in the UK.
What I discovered was that the then Conservative government was in the process of actually seeking to deregulate the process by which guns were regulated in the United Kingdom. And that really made me very annoyed.
These two men were part of a movement fighting to be heard by politicians.
So that's actually really, really interesting. That, as he said, the Conservatives were looking to motherfucking remove more restrictions. And yeah, that would have led to more dead kids. And if you don't think that would have led to more dead kids, look at the US. But let's continue.
Residents of Dunblane and relatives of victims started speaking out and organising public relations campaigns and creating petitions.
Politicians weren't necessarily used to hearing from the victims of shooting incidents.
Everyone who says, I enjoy the sport, I want to hold the gun in my hand and have the live ammunition. What I say is, you have those emotions for enjoying your sport, but feel the emotions of a parent who is never going to see their child again.
So that is so the whole argument about, well, I do it for sport and it makes me feel good. It's my identity. It makes me feel like it makes me feel powerful instead of some weak little bitch, because I wrap my identity around, you know, a tool, not necessarily who I am. Yeah, no, like, and they just came in and calmly said, if your kid was killed by it, how would you feel? It's pushing that human fucking empathy. And yeah. But let's go.
Really a massive groundswell, a bit like the climate extinction movement now. It wasn't highly coordinated or paid for.
So we had a petition called the Snowdrop Petition, which was getting the public to sign up for a ban on handguns, eventually gaining over 700,000 signatures. Within 2 years, a total ban on handguns had been introduced in this country.
By 1999, over 165,000 guns and over 700 tons of ammo had been surrendered.
There was a lot of opposition to it, and it was suggested that it would actually badly affect people who used guns for sport, but it hasn't done so.
What we did was a major achievement, and I'm very satisfied with.
So it's the whole doom and gloom and fear of, oh, but if we take it away, then, like, it never happened. Now, is that saying that there are no violent crimes in England? No, that's not what that's saying at all. But the whole idea of just need gun go boom, make me feel like a man. They totally abandoned it, and I have to say, it's fucking awesome. Not only that, but you get a lot of people who, I don't know, you run into the cops and they're not totally trigger happy and itchy, trigger finger itchy, you know, when you run into a cop, because, you know, They don't have to worry that everybody has a gun on them. And maybe more people can actually live for interactions with cops. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right? This helps out all the way around. But no, a lot of people base their identity on being able to wave a fucking tool around because we know that makes you more of a man, right? Right? That makes you more of a man, right? But all right, let's go. Let's go.
What we were able to do.
Dunblane happened. The gun laws were overhauled. Before Columbine even happened, 2 years earlier, it's like the precedent was set. We knew what was starting to happen across the world. And 2 years later, on April 20th, 1999, 2 teenagers shot and killed 12 fellow students and a teacher at Columbine High School near Denver, Colorado. Just like Dunblane did in the UK, Columbine shocked Americans. It wasn't the first school shooting in the US, but those images captured on live TV set something off that had ripple effects throughout the country. And just like in Dunblane, no one was closer to the situation than the victims' parents.
And it almost seemed like America ratcheted up the fear of, what stops a bad guy with a gun, a good guy with a gun, even though time after time after time again, we don't see that. We see that when people are in that situation, they fucking run. But, all right, let's go.
I'm the father of Daniel Mauser. He was one of the students killed at Columbine High School. He was 15 years old.
Like Mick North before him, Tom devoted his life to fighting for gun control, even taking a year off from work to lobby at the state capitol.
Just 2 weeks before Columbine, at the dinner table, Daniel asked me a question based on a conversation that he had with other members of the debate team. He said, "Dad, did you know there were loopholes in the Brady Bill?" Brady Bill is a national law that requires background checks to purchase a gun. And I just kind of blew it off. He was then killed with a gun that was purchased through a loophole in the Brady Bill. I mean, how could I not act on that? To me, that was very prophetic. And it made me realize that when we have loopholes like that, when we have so much carnage in this country, we have to do something about it. I became very vocal, active.
And Tom did make some very real progress on a state level soon after, helping to introduce a bill.
So that's actually really, really great, especially when you get people that just are touched by tragedy so much that they don't want anybody else to go through that tragedy. That's actually really, really great. That's fucking human empathy. But as we know, there's a but.
Bill to close the same gun show loophole he and Daniel had discussed over dinner. In 2000, the public voted and passed Colorado's answer to the Brady Bill by an overwhelming majority of about 70%.
I felt that I did something to honor Daniel. I did something in response to something he brought up to me.
But this small victory at the state level in Colorado was overshadowed by strong national backlash against gun safety laws. Barely a year after Columbine, then NRA President Charlton Heston gave this famous threat.
From my cold, dead hands.
Even though I don't believe in hell, I hope he burns in hell. I'm sorry, it's just like, fuck Charlton Heston. I'm just saying, like, fuck him. But let's go. Like, did you know that they literally had a NRA meeting right after Columbine, and it was like, no, fuck it, we need to suck that lobbyist dick.
America, we are so wrapped up in individualism and rights that we say, well, no, we can't do that because that might possibly affect my rights. And for a lot of people, that's more important than what could possibly happen to them or their neighbors. It's a cultural issue that is very starkly different between us and other nations. I think it's shameful in the U.S. that we have failed to really react in any significant way.
Since Columbine, the narrative in the US around gun rights and gun control has only become more polarizing.
Restricting law-abiding Americans from acquiring guns is obviously unconstitutional.
Is it time to repeal the Second?
So a lot of people don't actually read the Second Amendment. It's in the absence of a well-regulated militia in the absence of a well-regulated militia. The right to bear arms should not be abridged. The fact is, we have, in theory, a well-regulated militia. We do. We do. And I'm not talking about the army or shit like that. We have fucking police officers. Though that's supposedly, and I use that term loosely, supposedly a well-regulated militia of supposed community members that are regulated. Why the fuck do you need a gun other than to, like, you know, make up for their penis size? I don't get it. But let's go. Let's go.
Amendment. The left has their rigid, radical, anti-gun agenda.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
In the US, barely any federal gun control laws have passed since Columbine. In fact, experts say the most significant change in gun law is when politicians let a Clinton-era assault weapons ban expire in 2004, making assault weapons like AR-15s legal again. Since then, the AR-15 has been used in almost every notable mass shooting in America. And the problem continues to get worse. The US...
Oh no, it's mental health. Oh no, it's prayer in schools. Oh no, it's don't talk about the money that I get from the NRA. It's but we need God, and like, I'm sorry, motherfucker. Like, if your God fucking drowns a world full of people, I don't think he's opposed to violence. I'm sorry, if your God is okay with bringing the end of the world, I don't think violence is a thing that he's opposed with. Maybe we should actually get all the motherfuckers who claim to be Christians and actually make sure that they don't have and it's always those fuckers, right? You're not coming for my gun or my Bible. Like, didn't your Christ tell you to turn the other cheek, dog? Like, wasn't that the teaching that your Christ told you? Not, let's get an Emerald rifle. All right, let's go.
Has more firearms per person than any other country in the world. And it's the only country in the world that has more guns than people. And the US gun homicide rate is 25 times that of other high-income countries, including the UK.
The main problem is not necessarily the Second Amendment, but how that has been interpreted.
In America, there needs to be an understanding of how to tighten the law without grossly infringing on what are perceived of as rights under the Second Amendment.
But it does seem ridiculous to use the words of the Founding Fathers to decide how you control or don't control weapons that are usually used in war zones.
There have been so many mass shootings since Columbine that many Americans feel hopeless about reform. The fact remains, however, that 61% of Americans do support stricter gun laws. And there are many potential changes, such as closing the gun show loophole or restricting assault weapons, that would make a huge impact and would not go as far as a total ban on firearms.
I mean, like, and here's my thing with this, and that's the end of the video, basically. What actually I don't get is, don't people think that, like, hey, maybe I could get fucked up by this whole situation and not know it? Like, come on, self-preservation is a thing, y'all. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong fucking way. Maybe I'm looking at it as, like, I don't want to be shot and I don't want people around me to be shot. So maybe we just should do something about the guns that we have. But anyway, guys, like, share, and subscribe, all that other good shit. And yeah, we're gonna cut this video segment here.